Ikuzo.
There are no rules but one. Drink Jagermeister at minus 18 degrees Celsius.
People, when they watched that first match with me, against Anthony Macias, I have to tell people, I trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day. I never punched anybody. I never learned a single submission grappling or submission grappling technique or something like that. So when I tell people that, even when I was fill out the paperwork, they actually had a couple gals that were filling out the paperwork for you, because I think they didn't. I think that they were coming to the maybe that these guys are not capable of writing. So they had gals that they're like, okay, where do you hail from, and what's your height, what's your weight, and then I had never been asked that question before, like, well, what is your fighting style? I kept thinking, I paused for a second and thinking, I simply said to them, I go, I'm an American wrestler. Well, they had never heard that response before. And she actually, the gal that kind of looks left and right, then she leans forward, she goes, what exactly does that do? And then I kind of just mocked her. I looked left and right. I leaned down in, I go, you might want to watch. I'm making this up as I go. And she starts laughing at me because she thinks she's like, I panned the camera. And I go, but I mean, the reality is, when you think about it, I only trained 5 days, an hour and a half a day. Think about that in today's context. You name me an athlete at all that can train for 5 days, an hour and a half a day. And again, I'm with Al Snow and a couple other professional wrestling proteges. It was comical. I wished I hadn't had a cell phone at them, but they didn't exist. They were not that good. If I had some footage, you could. I mean, Al's still alive, and I couldn't even tell who some of the other people. But Al will tell you about that. I mean, it was comedy at its best. They were literally throwing the gloves at each other because, like, you go out there with. No, I don't know. You go out there with them. But the funny thing was, I didn't do nothing to hurt them, other than I never threw. As I said earlier, I never threw a single punch. I would clinch them and throw them down. So again, maybe that impact would be a throw down. But then I would get into a position of a submission lock. And all these were amateur wrestling moves that I could now turn illegal amateur wrestling moves.
Yeah.
But then I also tell people, but I also had that judo background. I also competed at the Sambo Nationals. I couldn't even spell Sambo at the time, and yet here I am at the Sambo Nationals. I don't even own a Sambo jacket. I just see another person roughly about the same, about my same size, and I'm like going, hey, buddy, can I borrow your jacket for a few matches? And I go out and win the Sambo Nationals. Yeah, but again, that's because my college career, I trained to become the best I possibly could have been. My high school career, I trained to become the best I possibly could be. My high school career was my opportunity not only just to travel and pay for my education. I got a degree from Arizona State. I worked in that industry. I worked at Arizona State as an assistant wrestling coach for 5 years. There was no money. I was making $3,200 a year. So I worked a full-time job on top of that, because that was my first love. And when I took the job at Michigan State, I think I was making $20,000 a year, and I'm thinking, I'm rich. Yeah.
We stay genuine, uncensored, and unscripted, and we always will, as we have to order our usual. Share us and subscribe us, and stay tuned until the next Wednesday. Ikuzo!